On this episode of Inside the SCCA, we're talking with one of the families in the SCCA who's been around for a very long time, been instrumental in many, many aspects of the club, and now they can add national champion to the title. Steve Introne, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Brian. Good to talk to you.
That's what I like to hear. You are here with us this week, and I really appreciate it. We are here to talk racing. The season has started around lots of parts of the country, but you are up in the great Northeast, and it's still just cold there, right?
You know what's funny? It's supposed to be cold, but to be honest with you, I think it was 60 degrees today.
Ooh.
But I'm getting nervous. Because the race season starts in 6 weeks, and I still don't have a motor in the car. So a lot of work to do.
I got you. And now you've got like 5 cars, right? Or 25 cars? What is it? 82 cars?
Hey, you gotta stop talking to my wife.
No, every time I see you posting on social media, there's another car in the garage.
Yeah. The problem with cars is a problem.
Right.
But being a Mini Cooper person, when you figure out these cars, I knew nothing about them 2 years ago. All of a sudden you start buying a bunch of them. So I think I've got four right now. But I think I've bought 7 over the last 2 years. So nice. Yeah, it's nuts.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you and Frank Schwartz, you're all, every time you guys are buying new cars, and
he's a different level. I'd have to go move, or I'd definitely get divorced if I got anywhere near Frank's numbers.
There you go. So I start every show with a simple question. And I know the answer to your question because I know your dad, knew your dad. And but my question is always, how did you get messed up in this crazy sport that we all love?
Yeah, it's well, you know the answer, right? I'm a second gen. I got my dad's blood, mm-hmm. And my parents started out, I guess before I was actually pretty much before I was born.
Yeah.
I think it was around 1970. I was born in 71. My dad was always in the cars, always watched racing, loved to go to racing, but he heard about this thing called SCCA and he got involved. And from that point on, from a kid, like a baby, I was at the track. My dad did a lot. My mom and my dad both did a lot of flagging. Mm-hmm. And the place I remember the most is a track out in Midwest called Mid-America. Mid-America Raceway. It doesn't exist anymore.
Where was that?
St. Louis area?
Okay.
Yeah, it had trees right along the track, everything. But, man, I could just remember being a little kid in the dirt roads playing with my cars. I do. That's a memory you don't forget. And, when you're at the track all the time as a kid, it evolves over time, right?
Right.
Remote control cars, you're out there playing with those. When I was old enough, I went in the timing and scoring. I think I was in 8th grade or something like that. Maybe it was 7th grade, did some timing and scoring. When I got old enough, I was on the turns.
Sure.
When I got old enough to drive, we autocross, and then we went racing, and it's all downhill from there.
Right. I would be very surprised if my dad and your dad never crossed paths, because my dad's a Midwest guy, and he got out in the early 70s, not long after I was born, had to have a respectable job, because you had to raise a kid and have some money, and racing wasn't quite as respectable back then, and and then you and I crossed paths when I got to the Northeast. I was living and working in New York City, and I was. By that point in time, I was doing some driving, I was doing some working, a lot like you were, and they needed a flag chief in New York region. And someone looked over at me, and I was the only one smart enough, not smart enough to get out, hide behind somebody. Like, there's got to be somebody I could put behind. I tried to hide behind G-Dub, and that was easier, not as hard to be done. Yeah, there it is back there, the G-Dub award. But no, they made me raise my hand, and I had to go up to race control, and your pop was up there, and he was one of the stewards, and your dad had a great way of telling me I screwed up without telling me I screwed up. You know, he just kind of, I could just see him shaking his head. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I think he did that away from home because it was very clear when I screwed up at home.
Well, I wasn't his kid. So,
yeah,
you know,
fair enough. He
had,
practiced different.
Yeah. So, but
no, hey, listen, they I didn't mention this, but one of the things that so my father was in the Air Force, right? He was an officer in the Air Force.
A meteorologist, right?
Yep, meteorologist. He actually used to do the weather. I was born in Florida. He did the weather for NASA.
Okay.
I was born in Patrick Air Force Base. He was doing it down in Florida, but then we moved to the St. Louis area, an air base called Scott Air Force Base.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's when he got into it. And the thing that I thought was cool is they created their own corner working crew, and they were called the Roadrunners.
Okay.
I still got stickers somewhere in my garage that say Roadrunner Corner Crew. We stick out our necks for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Being in the Air Force, he created this crew of people so it was like all his Air Force buddies. So they'd come in like groves of like 10, 20 people, and they would like own a couple turns, and people would wreck, and they'd go out there, push them, and they'd slap a sticker on it, and poof, there they go. It was kind of a cool thing, cool tradition that maybe one day we could reinstitute when I'm flagging again.
Cool. So at some point in time, you started driving. And I think it was Spec Racer Ford was the first thing, right? Or did you have anything before that?
I was autocrossing before that.
Okay.
But yeah, my first road racing car was a Spec Racer Ford, a Gen 2.
Got it. Autocrossing, I'm guessing because that was better on the pocketbook to start with, right? Or is that just where you wanted to start?
100%. It was about money, right? Yeah. I had an Eclipse turbo, and, I just had to slap some magnetic numbers on it and get some DOT tires with an extra set of wheels to go do it. So yeah, I did that about 5 years. Went to the Autocross Championships 2 years, one time in the Eclipse and one time in a Porsche 944. Great, a lot of fun, right? Yeah. You want to learn skills. It's a great intro to car control.
So we just had Scotty B. White on, and he talked about how important he felt. Not at the time, because, you never think about these things when you're doing it. But looking back on it, how important autocrossing was for him when he got to the road racing side of things.
Yep.
And, we're at a place in this club where a lot of people are saying, how do we convert autocrossers into road racers? And, I'm of the opinion that we don't have to convert autocrossers into road racers. There's a place for everybody to do their thing. But if you want to be a road racer and you want to get quicker, faster, to start as an autocrosser is not a bad way to do it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, right? My plan was always road racing, day one road racing, but when you can't afford it, you start out in autocross, and honestly, you hone your skills at a respectable speed, right? I don't know, when I was there, it was like 50, 60 miles an hour max, but you're like always on that edge, and you're getting at every 100th of a second. And I'll tell you that translated right into Spec Racer. And they do Spec Racer 20 years. You'd be shocked at how much that translates into whatever you're going to do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
100%.
There's so much I learned from having to learn how to learn a track fast, because, in road racing, even on your, assuming your car doesn't break, on most weekends, you get 40 laps to learn the track. In autocross, you get one.
three laps, right? I remember you got 3 runs.
Well, you get 3 runs, but you got to learn the track in the first run, or else you're not going to be fast in run number 2, and not you can be a little bit faster in run number 3. So, in road racing, you can mess up half your laps and still run up front.
Yeah,
and there's no perfect lap on a road. In road racing, in my opinion, there's always something in every single lap, but. You have to get to the quick lap fast, really, really fast in autocross. And that kind of precision driving, you can't really learn any place better than autocross.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment, right? You get to walk the track, right? And I think that's an important part of autocross. But there's a lot of thinking and memory in that. And honestly, I think road racing is too. It just, that thinking memory more comes back when you go back to tracks you haven't been in a while.
Right.
Like it's, I take video every track I'm at, and I also take notes. I have a nice little Excel file, and I do turn by turn about points where I'm going to be downshifting, where I'm going to be braking, maybe how I'm going to enter or exit a turn. I look at the notes, I look at the video, and instantly I'm back into the track when I first show up. So those things are important. Those things are important.
Do you look at other videos before you go to a track you've never been to before? You
Yes.
hop on YouTube and find a similar car, hopefully, and watch a couple of laps to give you an idea there. And do you do any sim racing?
I do know sim racing.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I mean, my son has Xbox,
right,
and he whoops me every time in Formula One or whatever it is. He's
sure.
usually racing it, but I'll go do that, but not true sim racing.
Right.
I honestly, I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
Life's busy.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, because you've got 2 teenage kids?
3 teenagers, right? One senior, 2 juniors.
I can't handle one.
I'll be honest with you. I don't handle any. I got a good wife. I'm lucky, right?
I'm the same.
I have a job that I don't get home till like 7 every day, right? So I'm just lucky. I'm fortunate. But you can imagine life is very busy with 3 kids, house, racing, job. It's hard to add new things in if you're doing car stuff in my mind. It's just every weekend I'm in the garage.
So what was that transition from autocross to spec racer Ford like for you?
That was a while ago, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what, I wasn't fast out of the gate. I could tell you that much. I wasn't last place necessarily, but I was definitely in the back half first going. But that's probably more of just being scared of wrecking the car, right? I had 19 grand. That's what I spent on the first spec racer back in 1999.
Yeah.
And my budget, boy, we're talking about low budget. I think I was either 200 or 250 bucks a month. That was my budget.
Wow.
If you add that up, that's like less than $3 grand. I had 1 set of tires I ran all year. I didn't know what the heck an alignment was. Didn't know how to do it. I knew that if I wrecked the car, I'd have to go fix it. So it was just like, go out there, have some fun, but don't go crazy enough that you're going to spend money and time to do it again. So the transition, I'd say the transition was pretty easy, but it is different because those higher speeds, the braking, it is different. I think where autocross helps the most is car control in the situations of a turn.
Okay.
Where you might be on the edge and maybe a small correction you have to do.
Okay.
That's where autocross comes in. I don't think it comes in high speed braking or anything like that. To me, it's the car control in the turns. That's just my opinion.
So if you have a $350 a month budget and that's what you're going to go racing on, there's really probably few better classes to do that in than spec racer Ford because at that point it was already a Ford, right? It had gone beyond Renault because when I did it, I was a sports Renault.
Ford. It was a Ford at that point. I can't remember when they made the Renault change, but I bought it as a Ford.
What was your chassis number?
492.
Okay, we had 425.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time with that car. 22 years.
Yeah.
My wife keeps telling me or tells everybody that we've never owned anything else that long.
Yeah.
Nothing, even kids.
That's true.
Right? Every car, my cars, they're like 2-3 years and then done because I get bored and I want something different. So that was a big change when we finally got rid of that car. But lots of memories.
So how many years was learning the car? I mean, obviously, every time you step in a car, you learn something. But when you're first getting started, it's a massive learning curve. How many years do you think you were in it before you felt like you knew the car, you knew what it was capable of, you knew what you were capable of, and now you just have to hone yourself a little here, a little there?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think I was comfortable after it sounds crazy when I say this, maybe 4 or 5 years, but you got to remember, I'm only running like 4 weekends, right? It's a small budget. But I'll tell you, there's a significant point where things changed. And it comes down to, I hate to say it, a little more money, right?
Yeah.
As my career progressed, I could put more into the monthly budget. And when I first moved back, I was in Detroit. When I first moved back to New Hampshire or the New England area, 2005, where I got fast is I got connected with 2 other people, a guy named Joe Wolf and a guy named Kevin Trefferson. And 2 great guys, two great friends, and we used to paddock all the time. You know, Kevin had kids, wife, and fun stuff that would show up at the track, and we all just hung out together. But the thing is we talked,
right,
and we learned, and all of a sudden these step movements were made on driving the car, and we all of a sudden got really fast. And at that point, I really learned a lot, because I just something about talking to people and learning the lines, but then more the confidence went up. And when that confidence goes up, then it just translates across. And then boom, after that, been fast since. You know, you get your first win, and then it just goes from there.
Where was the first win? Do you remember it?
New Hampshire. I wish I remember what year it was. I'm thinking it might have been 2007, I think. But it definitely was New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And it was with Kevin Trefferson right on my butt all the way to the finish line. And first guy out to jump and, you know, tell me great job and all that. I love that New Hampshire track. I do. And I'll never forget it. We ran a configuration that doesn't exist anymore. We ran the chicanes in NASCAR 1-2.
Okay.
We used to do like one day with it, and then one day you run the NASCAR turns. But obviously with me, I was good car control. You know, it worked in my favor.
Yeah, the one time I was at New Hampshire, they didn't use the chicanes. This was in the early 2000s. So
and that turn's scary, right? And again, it's all about confidence. But now I've got it down, like almost full throttle through there, right? You're going sideways, but that wall comes up so quick at the end. But I think that some people don't like it. I get it. Some people don't like every track at some point. But what I love about that track is it's got 2 to 3 really good passing spots, and that's what's important to me on a racetrack. When you don't have good passing spots, I don't enjoy those tracks as much. I call them driving tracks, right? I like to race. So you can do that at New Hampshire. Cool track. Great facility too. Great facility.
So how many years in before you got that first win? How many?
So I think it was 2007. So if you think about it, that's 8 years.
Okay. And and then how long from the first win to the second win? This is my favorite question.
Oh boy, it wasn't very far.
Yeah.
It wasn't very far. I might have won like 2 or 3 weekends later.
Yeah. Once you open that door, once you unlock the key, it then starts to come at you, because I think winning is in your head at some point as much as anything else. And, you know, once you unlock that first win, I know it sounds silly to those who've never done it, but you've got just a thing, you know, it's like, I know how to win because I've just done it.
Let me tell you a big thing that I think I learned. I told you I hooked up with those two guys and we talked a lot, but Kevin was a fanatic on car maintenance and prep and all that. And that's a lost science that a lot of people don't understand the impact it makes. But he taught me a lot, taught me a ton. I'll never forget sitting at the Glen. He's sitting there working on his car and he pulls out a set of injectors. He's putting injectors in. I'm like, well, what's that? What are you doing? I didn't know anything about it. He's like, oh, I'm putting in new injectors. They're going to give me like a second. I'm like, come on. Yeah. We go out there, it's a second. And I'm like, I hadn't touched my injectors for like 7 years. And I'm thinking, this guy's changing them out once or twice a year. So prep is huge. Well, and from that point on, I just continue to do small little tweaks in prep and setup that made huge differences.
Well, and prep is huge in Spec Racer Ford because a lot of the drivers you're driving against, they are either renting a car from a prep shop or they leave their car at a prep shop and it shows up at track with all that stuff you're talking about done like it's magic. And
spot on.
And you're now sitting with 3 guys and you're kind of like your own little prep shop, the 3 of you now, because you're able to say, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? Let's try this. Let's try that. So you're able to create your pseudo prep shop without having that, you know, because is it Motion Dynamics up by you guys?
Exactly.
And they're great guys.
Sean with Motion Dynamics. Yeah. One of, if not the best CSRs, you know, in the United States.
But it's not $350 a weekend.
Job. All these guys do too.
Yeah. It's not $350 a weekend to go with those guys.
Nope. I mean, they're a business, right? They're a business and they got to run like a business. But you're right? All the competition is getting some kind of prepped car, whether they're setting the car up for that driver, whatever they're doing, right? And everything makes a difference in Spec. Like rolling resistance, how much brake drag, how clean's your mass airflow sensor, right? Like your injectors, how clean are they? Setup, right? Ride height. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, no doubt at all. No doubt at all. And when you think about it, if it was 8 years to your first win, just think of how much faster you might have gotten to that. You should, and I'm not saying to like be upset about it, but
no, I'm not.
As a pride standpoint, you might have gotten that first win a lot faster had you been with a prep shop. But it's almost better that you didn't, because what you did with the prep shop by not having a prep shop is helping you with what you're doing today with the minis.
You got to learn it, right?
Right.
I mean, the reason why we were fast right out of the gate in B-Spec is not just because I have a Mini Cooper. It's because I had 22 years in Spec Racer racing against the best guys in SCCA.
And doing all the work yourself.
Yeah. And doing all the work and understanding every 100th matters.
Yep.
And that gets you there. It's funny too. No one really understands when I say this. The Mini Cooper and the Spec Racer 4 don't drive that much different, which is so weird, because one's rear wheel drive, high horsepower, one's front wheel drive, low horsepower. But all the tracks that I'm around here in the Northeast, the shift points are the exact same.
Oh, wow.
It's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
Like I caught right into it, drove it not very much different, which is weird. And it worked right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So this is a good place to take a break. And when we come back, we'll kind of like, before Christ, after Christ. So before Mini, after Mini. I think that's a good place for us to go here. Steve Introne is my guest. He is the current B-Spec National Champion. How's that sound? You like the sound of that?
Oh man, it sounds great. I only get to use it for like what, 7 more months?
Unless you win again this year, that's a way to keep using it. So
trust me, we're going after it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about B-Spec. We'll talk about some awards. We'll do all that. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Awesome.
And we're back on Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Belansky. My guest, Steve Introne, the 2022 SCCA B-Spec National Champion. Bet that never gets old.
Sounds awesome.
Never taking the advantage or not taking the advantage to say hi to your sponsors.
Yeah. Hey, listen, all you guys need to go get yourself a Black Hog Brew. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. All right, so 22 years in Spec Racer Ford, you decide you're going to make a switch, and there's 26 other classes in the SCCA to choose from, and you went B-Spec racing. How'd that decision come about?
It's funny. It's not where I wanted to go. It was not. It's funny how that happened. So I'll be honest with you, I'd say 4 years before I made the swap, I'd been thinking about changing classes. I'd run a long time. I was fast all around the area, the Northeast, right? I had track records in a lot of the tracks, and I took a shot at the runoffs a couple times and did just okay, not far enough up. And I was always a disadvantage of being 100 pounds over, and it drove me nuts. I hated the fact that I was always just being a big dude.
Yeah,
I couldn't get the car down at all.
We are men of ample girth.
I knew I wanted to try something different and take a shot at the national championship. I'm not going to lie to you. That's part of the reason I changed. And I was thinking of H production, to be honest with you. I actually made an offer on a CRX and it didn't come through. I made a
And
lower
Stephanie
offer.
said no?
Person said no. And what's funny is I think it was a car that used to be owned by Frank Schwartz, or he used to rent it. I can't remember, because I think I'd reached out to him when I didn't know anything about him and asked him about it. But anyway, the offer didn't work. And I remember what happened. A couple of weeks after that, I was sitting in the paddock at Thompson Motor Speedway. We were drinking beer at the party. And I was sitting there with JB Swan. I can't remember who else was there. And we started to talk. And somehow B-Spec came into the discussion. I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do H production. And someone said, yeah, I was thinking of getting a B-Spec. I was like, maybe I'll go B-Spec. And if I don't like it, I'll convert it to an H production. And honestly, that is my long-term vision, is eventually to convert it. But we started talking there, and all of a sudden I looked into it, and then I started asking around, and I started reaching out to some of the guys. I reached out to like Dave Daugherty, talked to him some, and then forever I wanted to actually buy his red Mini Cooper that he had at Road America. And he was kind of hemming and hawing whether he wanted to get rid of it or not. And after like 2 or 3 months of that, season was about to start, right? It was like January maybe or February. I didn't make a decision. And I said, okay, I guess we'll try to build a car, which scared the crap out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. But a lot of people at B-Spec, Dave Daugherty is one of them, really gave me a lot of help. And honestly, it wasn't that hard. Right. It wasn't that hard. You reach out to people, and they'll give you the advice, and poof, 3 months later, 4 months later, we got a race car.
I always tell people to buy a car that's built, but I didn't do that. My dad, when he switched out, he went to a CRX in IT, and I did a lot of the work on that car. And then there was Honda, King Motorsports was our kind of mentors in that class. Yeah. And they told us what to get and what to put on it, and did the internals on the engine and the transmission and stuff, but, still had to get the stuff in and out of the car and all of that. And while I always tell people to buy a car that's built, you never know the car as well as you do when you build your own car.
You're spot on. You're spot on. The cheapest and fastest way is to go buy a car. But when you build a car, you know everything about the car now. And that is a huge advantage, I think.
Yeah.
And that was not my plan. I just couldn't get the car I wanted, and he didn't sell it to me. So I was like, oh, crap, I guess I got to go build one.
So I always ask this question of someone who was in a class for a long time and then decided to switch classes. How long did you keep the Spec Racer Ford before you decided to sell it?
That's a great question, because I was not ready to sell it. In fact, I was trying to figure out how to get the same paint job on the Mini Cooper as the Spec Racer. But after about halfway through the year of B-Spec, first year, I was undefeated. Every place I went, I was getting a track record. It was fast. It was fun. And I said, you know what? I'm having too much fun. Let's sell it.
That's fast.
So, yeah, it was the same first year. Within 5 months, I was ready to get rid of it.
Well, that's
because I was having fun, and it was fast. It was good.
That's how you know you made the right decision.
Yeah. And honestly, here it is 2 years later, right? National championship, third place, lots of track records, lots of wins. I zero regrets. There's another factor to getting out of the Spec Racer too that I haven't said yet. They went to that transmission that just drove. That was like my last straw. So when they went to that new transmission, the SADEV that costs whatever 16 plus grand all installed,
right?
You're going to build most of a good B-Spec with that. So
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. I'll try not to. I was really tempted to tell you to get rid of that Bruin thing back there. Being a Blackhawks fan, this is hard for me. I'll be honest.
It can be hard for you, but I'm just saying they do have the best record in the league. I don't know. Just saying, could be the year.
So
we are in Titletown here. I'm just saying we are in Titletown. I know the Patriots didn't do so high. I know the Red Sox didn't do so high, but both the C's and the B's now are all there.
All right, let's move on. So I'm a glutton for punishment. I could have just kept my mouth shut and not said anything, but so having fun right away, winning races, but it's one thing to do well in your division on tracks that you know all the time because you learned all your tracks, and you mentioned how close the cars weirdly raced. But now it's time to go up against the best of the best at the runoffs, Indianapolis, with your dad there, and I watched the race, and there's this guy from the Northeast who used to be in Spec Racer Ford who lands on the podium. How was that week? How was that week?
That week was absolutely amazing. Like, honestly, my dad actually wasn't there.
Oh, he wasn't?
Couldn't get there.
Oh, I thought he was there.
He was having some health issues, and he was struggling to drive there. But I'll be honest. So first of all, the week was awesome, right? I mean, out of the gate, I did the test. So the luck I had is I've been to Indy. So I had been to Indy in the Spec Racer Ford. I had video, right? So I knew where the track was going to be fast for me. So, and I was always fast in all the sweeping type stuff. It's never the straights I'm fast at. Big dudes that we got problems on straights. We go through those turns, we got it. So I knew the track. I was fast out of the gate. I think first test session, fastest car. Second, third test session, 1 or 2, whatever. And then we qualified 1, 2, 3. In fact, I think I qualified second, and actually I had the pole after day one. I'm like, holy crap, it was awesome. Win of the race in the front row. I went in that race though, knowing I was racing against like 2 or 3 cars though, like a team. I went in there. Dave Daugherty had John Phillips, and he had his son, and I knew that it was Introne against the 3. Even though that he gave me some advice and help and all that, I knew that it was that team against me. So it made it interesting right out of the gate. And unfortunately, the start wasn't the way I wanted it to be. Had to make some ground, but great race, right? I mean, think about it. First time at the runoffs that I'm podium. Same thing. I was crying. Let me help that there. So I'm not my camera. I was crying. Same thing. Hayward was there, and seeing me come off. I had lots of friends that showed up just for the race. I'll tell you that whole podium celebration was amazing, and it wasn't quite the same at VIR, but like they walk you through all these things, like this press room where I felt like an F1 star. It was crazy, and it was a little different than what they did at VIR. But
VIR was also doing a hurricane.
Fair enough.
A lot of things were weird at VIR.
I figured that's what it was, but I was happy at that point. Finished on the podium, came home. Dad was like super proud. When he first saw me, came up and he was like, "Oh man, you're a star," all that stuff. And that's just what you wanted to hear. He was super proud. So it was I couldn't complain.
Yeah.
I couldn't knock the fastest lap of the race. So everything was great. And
so
22.
VIR is great, and we're going to talk about that. And we race at some of the best racetracks in the country. No doubt. But Indianapolis, there's something about Indianapolis. We grow up, and back when you and I were kids, there was only one way to race at Indy.
Right.
And that was in an Indy car.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but I knew that wasn't going to be me as much as I wanted to be. That was a whole different level of checkbook than I was ever going to have. And talent. Let me put that out there too. There's a whole different level of talent there. But to be able to take our little club cars and go to what I would say is probably the most important, even today, racetrack in the world, and win and be on the podium, that's got to be just next level, right?
It's definitely more special, right? Because I'll call it a pro track, right? Yeah. A lot of famous people have been there, and even the Victory Circle stand is just amazing. I took tons of pictures. One of my favorite, you can't tell on this, but on my work computer, one of my favorite pictures is actually in the infield where it says Gasoline Alley up there in the car. It it is cool. It's a fantastic facility. I'm sure SCCA will be going back at some point. Hey, listen, every runoff I have a good time.
Yeah.
I think it is special, but I think they're all special in their own way.
All right. So again, I think we're at the right spot for a break, because we're gonna go on to what I call your dream season. I don't know that there would be anything else to call it, right?
Great finish.
Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic finish. A little soggy, a lot of stuff going on there. When we come back, we're going to talk about Steve's championship run and some hardware it's got sitting behind him there and all of that. We'll do that next on Inside the SCCA. Don't go anywhere.
All right.
And we're back inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Belansky. My guest, Steve Introne, talking racing.
Yeah.
Having a great time.
It's the only thing to be talking, right?
Wyndham,
sports.
Wyndham, New Hampshire. What's the temperature in Wyndham these days? Oh, you told me it was like really nice.
Yeah, it was nice today. I can't figure. Listen, I don't know what is going on here. That just means we're going to get snow in like April or something like that. But it has been actually sports car weather the last 2 days.
Really? Top down weather?
60 degrees.
Wow.
It's weird. It's weird, but that just means we're going to get hit hard.
Sure. All right, so now we're going to fast forward to 2022. This is kind of like this is your life. 2022's here. You're coming off a podium at the runoffs in Indy. And how does your pre-runoff season go in 2022?
Well, it was interesting because my first race of the year is, hey, listen, if the runoffs with VIR, let's go get some practice. Let's go see what it's like. So I went down there in April, and I can't remember. I think the weather might have been a little cool, but it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Out of the gate, qualifying, I put my good tires on, brand new set, and everyone knows the magic set, the magic lap is like lap 3, and I knew it. And I think it might have been 2 though. I might have been off of 1, and I spun the car out. And from that point on, I didn't have any clean tracks. So I had horrible qualifying. That's what I wanted to get down to. So I think I started like 6th or 7th or something like that. Far enough back though, right? That you had to fight. So I ended up fighting, and I was making a pass for the lead on the back straight and had some contact. And that put me into like a 100-mile-an-hour spin off into the dirt. So that race didn't end too well. I don't know where I finished, but we didn't finish in the top 3. So second race, came out there pretty flamed up after the Saturday race and ended up winning that race. And that was good. So it was one of those things where it was good and bad, right? I took a scary ride, to be honest with you, at 100 miles an hour spin through the grass in one of these cars. I'm lucky it didn't do one of these rollovers.
Sure.
But then the next day, recovered, did a win. So good and bad. I'll leave it that way. But I learned a lot. How about that?
Yeah. And then the rest of your lead up to the runoffs, pretty stout, or was it an up and down kind of season?
Pretty good. Yeah. That's a good. So the next race was Summit Point, and coming off a high at VIR, go to the track, and I like Summit Point. Don't go there a lot, but I've got some seat time there, and I think I qualified second, so on the front row. First race we go, and I'm like,
who was on the front row with you at Summit?
Some guy named Rich Roman.
Okay, remember that name. Put it in the back of your memories, folks, because we're going to get back to that here. We're going to get back.
He smoked me. Like, he checked out. I'm sitting like, wait a minute. I had won every single race in 2021. I was on the podium at the runoffs. Coming in 2022, having a spin, so that's a fluke. Win the next race, and then all of a sudden I'm like, holy smokes, this guy he smoked me. And I said, wow, I got to go figure out what's going on. And I did a little bit of video watch and stuff like that. So I said, day 2, I need to stick with him. And I did that. And we had an unbelievable race where every single lap, we were passing each other into 1 through 2, sometimes 3. And it was so damn clean. And on the last lap, he got me in 3. And I knew I was faster in one spot. It was the turn before the straight. I was coming up on him, and I missed the shift. So he won the race. But you know what? Super clean. Like, we were door to door all the time. Take that note down.
Yeah.
This guy knows what he's doing. He's fast, and he's clean. So that was my first stud.
All right.
So then we raced at the Glen. And I was a little faster than there. I won one race, was going to win the second, but the car had a little shutdown that made me get like third or something like that. But he was there, and he was fast. I think he might have won one of them, and then maybe second or third the second one. Super clean, no contact. At that point, we started to talk. I'm like, listen, I like this guy. He's fast, and he's clean. And that's where the plan started for the runoffs. So I learned in 2021 that you can't go out there and be by yourself. You need to have some partners.
That's a little different, right, than Spec Racer Ford, because you definitely have to have partners in Spec Racer Ford. But it's a different type of partnership, right? Because you could partner with anybody in a Spec Racer Ford.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're a little more equal cars. Right? They're exactly equal.
Right, and it's a common practice. You know, and people might not really think of B-Spec as a drafting class, but there's some of that there as well. But in Spec Racer Ford, if you don't have partners, you're not going to run up front.
Yep. I think between whatever happened in 21, but it happened in 2022, I think people are going to realize you need to have some partners, especially on the tracks that have long straights. Like next year, Road America, you're going to have partners, right? So I knew I needed one. I knew this guy.
Before you say that, though, did you see Frank at Sebring?
Yes.
Yeah. No partner needed there.
Yeah. No partner needed in that. Yep. He did. He took off. 100%.
But anyway, let's go back to the runoffs now.
Yeah. So I think it was July timeframe, and I'm sitting there thinking about, okay, what am I going to do at the runoffs? Who should I go with? And his name came right to the top. And I gave him a call. I said, hey, what are you doing? You going to the runoffs? Yep. Hey, you're fast, right? I saw him, by the way. I missed the point. I did see him at VIR too. In fact, Q1 or 2, he was faster than me on that by a little bit, right?
Sure.
So I knew that this guy was fast. So I called him up, and we started to talk, and we came up with a plan. We talked about what test days we're going to do. We talked about what tires we're going to put on for every test day.
Right.
And we went out there and said, okay, you go in front, then I go in front, and let's see where we're faster together. And it happened to be that we were faster together with me in the front. We stuck to the plan, and it's all history from there, right? I mean, we were the fastest 1-2 every single time we're on the track.
So the plan was for you two to be partners throughout the whole week, and then get to race day. Now, I got to tell you, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And that whole partnership thing sounds really good until it's go time in a race, and especially it's not any race. It's the race for the whole guacamole here, and you guys had the plan to work together, and he stuck to it.
Yeah, partners got to trust each other. And I've been in situations where a partner did not stick to the plan, right? So it's very important. And Rich is a stand-up guy, right? I've always said it. He deserves the championship just as much as me. We did exactly what we said we'd do. He knew he was faster than me at one spot in the track, and he took his shot at the very end there, and it was that close.
Yeah.
I mean, and he could have tried to go earlier, right? He could have tried to go earlier, and that would have screwed us up. I think it would have put those third and fourth place cars right dead in the fight. And, you know, I appreciate and respect what he did by being patient to the right time to do it.
So, you know, you've got this big thing hanging over your left shoulder there. Yeah.
This one?
No. Yeah, that one there.
Yeah.
Once you get one of those, you want a second one, right?
Absolutely.
Now, runoffs are back at VIR this year.
Hey, I'm not going there just to drive around.
But you had a partner for the first one. Now, one would think that when you got a partner for the first one, there might be some sort of a belief that you're going to have a partner for the second one and that you're going to return the favor.
Yeah, that's a good question there.
So
I'm not gonna be honest.
And you know, my job here is to be
I pondered that discussion.
My job here is to be the crap stirrer, you know?
So Rich and I have already talked.
Okay.
And Rich wants to go to the runoffs again. In fact, he's probably going to rent one of my cars at the Glen because I got 2 cars. It's in the process of being rebuilt, but I'm going to try to help get him there. And then I've got some other people that have been reaching out too. I've got a good buddy of mine locally here, a guy named Alosh, who really helps me out a lot. He drives a Mini and he's getting fast. He won the New England Region Championship this year. I think he's going to be have an opportunity to be up there. And then there's 1 or 2 other people that I've talked to, but it's going to be interesting. It might be more than just one partner.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's going to come down to the experience that happens in the year and, you know, how we do when we get there at the runoffs. But we got to see.
So I did not know Rich prior to VIR.
Yep.
And I was fortunate enough there's a whole crew from DC region who do everything together. And they got a couple corner workers, a couple of grid workers, and some drivers, and they had all had a chalet at VIR. And as we've talked about a lot on the podcast, the weather, and we did the live podcasts from there, the weather was just batshit crazy. Pardon my French. And in the evenings, I mean, there was one evening I really thought the motorhome was going to end up somewhere in Charlotte. But anyway, I was invited to hang out with the folks from DC region after your race, and Rich was there.
Yeah, right there at the grid, right? Up there. Yeah. All good people.
So, but
fantastic.
he could not. This is a guy who came in second. Okay. With a legit shot to win a national championship. And he could not say nicer things about you. Yeah, and how proud he was of you for sticking to the plan and giving him a shot in the last corner on the last lap. And it was fair up, straight up win. And he was obviously his first podium at the runoff, so that was great regardless. But, you know, yeah, I was just so impressed with him.
Yeah, he, again, the way he drives, right, just shows his character.
Right.
And the fact that he drives respectful. And I drive just like him. Like, we're going to be fair, and I'm not going to hit somebody to take them. Right. And we did that. And, you know, again, like you said, he stuck to the plan. I mean, I'm the guy in the front. It's usually me say we stuck to the plan, but in the end, if at the end there, if he tried to pass me, I could have done something stupid.
Right.
I could have weaved over left and tried to prevent that stuff. I didn't want to play that game. He had a shot at the best spot where he knew he was fastest. Right. And I'll tell you, it was probably that close.
Oh, it was, yeah. It was close.
It was like, what, 7,000ths or 7,800, I don't know, 78,000ths, I think, of a second or something like that. It was close.
Yeah.
So, you know, we go back and we partner again, and he very well could beat me.
Yep.
And I'd be just as happy. I'll tell you that now.
Right.
I got out of the car and mine's crying and all that stuff. I said the same thing. I said, Rich deserves this just as much as I do.
Yeah. All right, before I get,
I'll always appreciate that.
Before we take a trip to the hardware store,
yeah,
because you've collected some. There was a little thing at the end of the race that happened, and some of your competitors decided that it was time to make sure everyone's being honest, quote unquote. We're gonna make sure everyone's being honest. Yeah, big old protest. You and David Daugherty and one of the other.
Riley Sawyer.
Right. There was a protest on the lead car of every make. So it was a Mini got protested. Daugherty's, what was Daugherty in?
He was in a Sonic.
Yeah, he was in a Sonic, and then I think one of the Hondas also. It was a Mazda, right? So.
Yep.
Turns out every single one of you were legal.
Of course.
Which you certainly weren't surprised by that. What's your thought on that thought process?
Well, I tell you, you're going to put me on a
I
spot,
am,
because
that's my job here.
And, I'm glad that I've had 4 or 5 months to think about this, because it'd be slightly different answer, but not much different. I was disappointed by the protest, straight up. Those that know me, I'm not that guy. Officer in the military. I have my hood up all the time. You want to come look and see what I do? Come talk to me. What disappointed me the most about the whole situation, those that protested never came and talked to me. Never even came and looked at my car, didn't do anything. That's where I have the problem. If you're going to have enough guts to go protest somebody, go talk to them. Go understand who they are. Go understand, ask them some questions. I thought it was kind of just not the right way to do it. Not right way to do it. And I was pretty upset on how it happened. You want to question my integrity, come talk to me first and come look at my car. Come look at what I did. Know what's happening before you want to go out there. And that might be me, might be my upbringing. I wouldn't do that to somebody. Don't hide behind anything and go do it. Just go talk to people. I think when you talk to people, you're going to find out a lot.
Yeah. You did a really nice job, because I had you on the show that night, and I asked you that question that night. No, we had you on the next day, I think, because you were tearing your car apart.
No, because we raced on Friday, and I left Saturday.
So, but
we raced on Saturday. We raced on Saturday.
Yeah, but
that was that night. That was that night.
I thought maybe we had you on Sunday morning, like bright and early before you drove out.
Well, whatever, you know what? You're right.
Whatever the case was, I asked you the question, and you did a really good job of deflecting, because I know you wanted to say more, and you didn't. So I give you props for that.
Yeah. Oh, I was pretty hot. Yeah. And different, and not just me. Others.
Oh, I'm sure. No, I'm sure.
It's just not the. Again, just just because someone's winning, go understand. Go talk to them. Yeah. And I just can't. The insinuation is what I didn't like about it. People got to go spend some time. Hey, listen, go get fast,
right,
and then see what it's like. Right, it's different. It's different.
Yeah. All right, let's put that to bed for now.
Yep.
Hardware time. We're gonna go to the superstore here, because you got a whole bunch of it behind you. I see the 2 runoffs trophies. Obviously, we've talked about that. You were also at this current last national convention. You got a chance to
Northeast. Oh wait.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Well, so the Northeast Driver of the Year happened also, but before that, you were awarded the Kimberly Cup, which is the SCCA award for most improved driver. The names who've won that are pretty stout. You've added your name to a good list of drivers there. That's gonna be also pretty proud after 20. Usually most improved driver is a guy who's been doing it, or a driver's been doing it for a couple of years. Right. You got yours 26 years in, or 20. That's pretty cool.
26 years to actually improve.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though, right?
I don't want to talk about necessarily one, but I have just been blessed. That's all I'm going to say. Like, when you look at my 2022, there were new track records. There were many wins. There was pole position. There was national champion. There was the veteran honorary award you gave me. Mm-hmm. There was the G-Dub award you gave me. There was the Kimberly Cup. I just got the Northeast Division driver of the year, was the Northeast champion, the Northeast Majors champion. Like, it's crazy. I am far blessed. I'm happy. There's no way I'll get even close to that ever again. And I won't ever forget that year. I won't ever forget that year. That's all I can say. Doesn't mean I'm not coming for it in 2023.
Of course.
But I'll never forget that year.
Of course. Well, I think you deserved it. I think you earned it. I don't think you deserved it. I think you earned it. I don't think anybody deserves anything in this. Maybe if someone, finishes third or second 12 times and then gets it, maybe they deserved it. But I think you earned it. And there's a lot of good people skills behind that too. You don't get to the club. People don't give out awards to people in this club who've been around for 26 years if you've ticked off too many people.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
I mean, yep. Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. You got to be smart. You got to build relationships. I mean, that's just. I say that to my sponsors, right? I got a fair amount of sponsors on my racing team, and it's all about relationships.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to give you a chance to thank all of them in just a minute.
Perfect.
You've got one or two more cars in the garage.
Beyond the race cars?
No, just the race cars.
So I got two race cars. They're both B-Spec minis.
Right, okay.
They were identical.
Okay.
And then I've got another mini out there right now that I just parted.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is I have an idea who's got eyes on that second mini.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. and you're about to become a third generation racing family, right?
Yes. So good point. So I got three kids, but two that are very interested in getting in the car. In fact, two of them have been in the car, but this year I've got plans for each of them to do two track days.
Okay.
Track days. I'm pulling back a little bit. Might do some autocross. Might put them in a CRE, a competition race experience. But I bought a third car just so they could go drive around and learn a stick. Because one was 16.
Yeah.
The first time I the track, he was 15, and he didn't have a license or anything. So yeah, there's going to be definitely the next generation in a race car. They got a lot of work to go, but they're going to be dedicated, which is what I like.
Nice. How does that feel after you being, the track rat second generation? And notice I didn't call you a track brat, because then I'd have to call myself that too.
I call myself a track brat. It's all good. I think it's awesome. Hey, listen, SCCA is always a family, right? It's always a family event. When I go, I take as many family members as are not either doing some sports event or doing something else. They like to be there. My wife and I are flaggers. My mom's a time and score. My daughter's been out flagging too. My other daughter does TNS. I mean, we're all involved. It's a family thing. We love it. It's SCCA is awesome.
My team comes out now, and we used to watch Mythbusters, and never did I think that they would be in tech. But that makes sense now. They like looking under the hood, and
they like to learn that
and that kind of stuff. So so I've got a third generation as well, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without my time in the SCCA. It has so molded a lot of my friendships and the way I think about life, and the methodology that I use when I'm tackling a problem I learned through the club by putting cars together and taking them apart and learning how to take apart a lap at a racetrack. It's just so much that we get out of it, and it's all about people, right?
Yeah, no, spot on. It's funny too, because definitely the people are great, and that's what make you come, right? But the other thing that really makes me go is I don't think about work, right? That's my release. And it's the same with flagging or racing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I love both. I love both. Unfortunately, there's just not enough time in the world to do both all the time. Well,
I always tell people always ask me, why don't you do racing broadcasting full time? And I would tell people, then what do I do on my weekends? What do I have as a hobby? But now as I get to the later parts of my broadcasting career, I'm out actually doing racing broadcasting as part of what I do, and who knows where that's going to go at this point. But all right, so this is the time. You've already flashed the beer symbol a couple times. Tell us about.
Because I'm drinking the beer.
I know.
In fact, I kind of stopped because it's done.
Well, that's your problem. You didn't plan well enough. You needed to have a cooler next to you.
I did. That's spot on. Next time we're gonna have lots of beer. There's no doubt there's going to be lots of beer. In fact, we might have to have a beer party when we do it next time.
Nice. So, who are the sponsors? Let's get them all
so
out there.
I got a little booklet in front of me. So there's another benefit, right? I got to push shout out to my wife.
Oh, you have a hero card.
Yeah, it's this. My wife is awesome. She's gotten most of my sponsors, but she puts these pamphlets together. It helps out so much, and we send them out. That's how we talk to our sponsors. But I gotta call out my sponsors. Okay.
Before you do that, tell your wife that I'm going to have her on as a guest to talk about how to help other racers do what you've done.
Oh, yeah. Nope. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
She would love to do that.
Now,
yeah. I mean, that's her. She owns a communications business, right? So she's good at that stuff. She knows how to write. I don't know how to write. Yeah. I can barely speak. So,
all right, go ahead. Sponsors.
So, Recipient Technology is the first one. These guys are great. Picked them up at the runoffs, believe it or not, and now they've come up as a full major sponsor this year. So that's been awesome. Obviously, Black Hog Brewing, best beer you can have out of Oxford, Connecticut. Every race I go to, they give me cases of beer, and I give them out to the volunteers because why? The volunteers are awesome, right? I mean, I'm a volunteer, and they do everything. They're the reason why we can race, right? So Black Hog has been awesome providing beer at every single party of every track that I go to. Boston Mobile Tire. These guys, again, it's a one-man band. Guy drives around his truck and he does tire mounting, right? And he's a car enthusiast. So he comes up to New Hampshire and he does all my stuff. So I really appreciate that. Veloce Engineering, another great company, bringing cash to the table that helps me do what I need to do. But they do a lot of prototype and engineering type work, a lot of 3D printing, stuff like that. Again, out of Connecticut, but a great crew. Mini Bedford. I actually picked up a good mini dealership. Which is a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Babyface Fabrication makes the best cage in the world out of North Carolina. Drove 2 cars down there from New Hampshire. So that is the place to go for a cage. G-Lock brakes, right? You can't see. I don't like to use my brakes, to be honest with you. But when I do, it's usually at a threshold. And I know I have the confidence with Danny and the G-Lock brakes that come with it. They've been awesome. And then obviously my wife's company, intronecom.com. So great sponsors, Mini, Summit Racing, Hankook Tire, all those contingency sponsors. Those guys are awesome too. It's been amazing B-Spec experience. B-Spec is a great class, growing, got to keep going. I mean, I can't wait to see what this place is going to look like in 2 or 3 years because, man, so many people are building cars and it's an exciting place to be.
All right, so on the last note going out, you broke a record at the runoffs, by the way. I don't know if you know this.
I think I might know which one it is. Which is it?
The longest victory lap in the history of motorsports.
Yeah, I love that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's a real record, but if it was.
No, I'm calling it a record.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that because, we got in my clown car, that little Mini Cooper, and the whole family got in there. So, and my crew guy named Spencer Dickinson. So Melissa, my wife, 3 kids, and the Spencer guy. So that's 6 of us.
In a Mini. Let's start with that.
6 people in that clown car, right? Yep. So you can imagine it was tight.
And you're all wet and musty and damp. It must have been the most disgusting thing in the world.
Well, it wasn't wet in the car, to be honest with you, except for the water. I was spraying the sweat I had. But they'd never done this before. And I got, my daughter had to have the flag. Out the window, and my crew guys right in front there.
But the flaggers, talk about the flaggers.
Every turn, I knew somebody, and the flags were happening, and I just had to stop and send my thanks. I mean, one guy came running up. It was just awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I have not shown my in-car camera to anybody, but that's something special for me, and that victory lap was super, super special.
Yeah. Steve, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've earned all of what you have behind you, and again, your family's done so much for the club, and it's really cool to see and tell these stories. And your story is why I do this podcast. and your story and stories like yours is why I do this.
Yep.
We're all about the stories, and this has been just a ton of fun. I look forward to seeing you and Rich and whatever other posse you put together this year to try to do it again, and it should be a ton of fun. So,
Brian, first of all, I appreciate it. Right, I always enjoy, sitting down talking with you. You've been a great friend for a long time. A shout out to you and Greg, because you guys are doing a fantastic job with the Hoosier Super Tour live broadcasting that you guys are doing. I think you just finished up COTA. I'm not sure if you got another one coming up this weekend.
Yeah, but one of those coming up this weekend.
Is that this weekend?
Yep.
I unfortunately I'm busy, but I could tell you I watched a little bit of the COTA, but a lot of the Sebring, and I think it's a great plus. And I think you guys both you and Greg are doing a fantastic job.
I appreciate that.
I'm glad you guys are doing that.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside the SCCA. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the Racing Wire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube so you won't miss any episodes. Would also be great if you would leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. If it's a bad one, leave it on some other series podcast. You can also follow us on social media, find out who our next guests are, and leave a question on Twitter. It's @RacingWireNet. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I am Brian Polanski. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.